They didn't just love, they consumed. Hollywood's golden age sold a dream of glamour, loyalty, and perfect romance. Behind the curtains, stars who turned scandal into a lifestyle, affairs that wrecked marriages, flings that toppled careers, and passions that burned so hot they left ashes behind. These weren't just love stories, they were obsessions, and the town called them nymphomaniacs. Number 1, Tallulah Bankhead. Tallulah didn't just push boundaries, she demolished them. She bragged openly about being ambisextrous, her word for having lovers on both sides of the gender line, and claimed she'd been with more than 500 people. The number might be inflated, but in Tallulah's world, exaggeration was part of the seduction. She was a Broadway darling turned Hollywood troublemaker who once greeted reporters by saying, "I'm as pure as the driven slush." Her affairs read like a roll call. Greta Garbo, Marlene Dietrich, Billie Holiday, and a string of actors whose names she barely remembered the next morning. Parties at her home became legendary. Guests swore she'd sometimes host in the nude, cigarette in hand, daring anyone to look away. When the Kinsey report on sexual behavior came out in the 1940s, Tallulah shrugged. Nothing shocked her because she'd already lived it. She once joked that she only quit drinking because it interfered with her carousing. For Tallulah, intimacy wasn't private. It was performance art, and she made sure the press was always watching. She boasted about her escapades, dropped lovers' names without shame, and joked about taboos so shocking the public didn't know whether to laugh or faint. And that's why Hollywood never forgot her. She didn't date, she devoured. Number 2, Ava Gardner. Ava was the woman every man wanted, and the woman no man could handle. She married Mickey Rooney at just 19, and later dismissed him with a laugh, saying the honeymoon had been more fun for him than her. Then came Frank Sinatra, the great love and great disaster of her life. Their marriage was a carnival of booze, fights, and reconciliations. Sinatra once tried to take his own life after one of their explosive arguments, and Gardner admitted she drove him mad with jealousy. When she wasn't breaking Sinatra's heart, she was drinking with Ernest Hemingway in Cuba or dodging the obsessive attention of billionaire Howard Hughes. Hollywood called her the most beautiful woman in the world, but beauty was just the weapon. Her real power was appetite, for life and love that burned too hot to last. Gardner herself joked that she was the kind of woman who could never stay bored, and men found that terrifying. Some adored her wild streak, others fled from it, but no one forgot it. For Ava, passion wasn't decoration, it was fuel, and it always left wreckage behind. Number 3, Lana Turner. Few scandals rocked Hollywood harder than Lana Turner's. She was MGM's glamorous sweater girl. But her private life was chaos in mink. 8 marriages, countless affairs, and one relationship so poisonous it ended in blood. Her lover, Johnny Stompanato, was a mob enforcer, jealous, controlling, and violent. Their fights became tabloid theater until one night in 1958, Turner's teenage daughter, Cheryl Crane, stabbed Stompanato to death, claiming she was protecting her mother from another beating. The case was ruled justifiable homicide, but the headlines screamed, Hollywood star, mobster boyfriend, murder in the mansion. Even before that, Turner's name was gossip column gold. She romanced actors, millionaires, and musicians with the same ease she put on lipstick. Some lovers said she was magnetic, others said she was reckless. Both were true. Her desire for love always came tangled with danger. She even admitted she had a weakness for bad boys, as if she couldn't resist courting destruction. Lana Turner didn't just love badly, she loved fatally. Number 4, Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford built her career on ambition, and in Hollywood, ambition often meant seduction. She was accused of sleeping her way into MGM, a charge she never directly denied. Crawford had affairs with Douglas Fairbanks Jr., Clark Gable, Spencer Tracy, and if the gossip mill is to be believed, with women as well, including Marilyn Monroe and Marlene Dietrich. She was magnetic and manipulative, the kind of woman who treated intimacy like another negotiation. Her 4 marriages ended badly, and her reputation followed her off-screen. Later, her adopted daughter's memoir, Mommy Dearest, turned her into a villain, but long before that, Crawford already had a reputation as a woman who would do anything, or anyone, to stay on top. She perfected the art of scandal management. Never outright deny, never fully confess, and always give the press just enough to stay hooked. She was the kind of star who'd throw a rival under the bus if it meant another headline for herself. She didn't climb Hollywood, she conquered it, bed by bed. Number 5, Marlene Dietrich. Marlene Dietrich was never bound by rules, not of gender, not of nationality, not of fidelity. She wore tuxedos on stage, kissed women in public, and collected lovers across continents. Men adored her, women adored her, and she adored both. Greta Garbo, JFK, Edith Piaf, Gary Cooper. The names pile up like postcards from a life lived without breaks. Born in Berlin cabarets, she brought that decadent freedom to Hollywood, where she scandalized censors and seduced co-stars. During World War II, she entertained Allied soldiers at the front lines by day and entertained her lovers at night. She blurred lines everywhere she went, between masculine and feminine, between love and lust, between art and life. Dietrich turned her affairs into an art form, keeping lovers close and rivals closer, never afraid of the headlines they stirred. Some called her immoral, others called her magnetic. Either way, they were still talking. Number 6, Rita Hayworth. She was called the Love Goddess, and her pinup was taped to the walls of every World War II barracks. But for Rita Hayworth, men were both the dream and the downfall. She married 5 times, including director Orson Welles and Prince Ali Khan, and each marriage collapsed under the weight of expectation. She longed for stability but kept choosing men who offered the opposite. Talk of her affairs never stopped, and lovers found that the goddess they worshipped on screen was restless and fragile in private. Hayworth was said to throw herself into romances with abandon, only to watch them sour just as quickly. Privately, she confessed, "Men go to bed with Gilda, but they wake up with me." She gave the world one of cinema's most iconic images, the hair flip in Gilda. But behind that image was a woman who could never hold on to love for long. The world worshipped Rita, but she could never worship just one man. Number 7, Vivien Leigh. Vivien Leigh played Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind, a woman who destroyed every man who touched her. Off-screen, she wasn't so different. While married to her first husband, she pursued Laurence Olivier with ruthless focus, breaking up his marriage to be with him. Their romance was the toast of theater and film, but behind closed doors, it was brutal. Leigh suffered from what we now know as bipolar disorder, which drove her to wild flings and erratic behavior. She was rumored to have had affairs with Marlon Brando and other co-stars, often while Olivier was away. Her friends described her as alternately radiant and destructive, able to seduce a room and ruin it in the same evening. Their marriage collapsed under the weight of her illness and her desires, but even after divorce, she kept chasing passion wherever she found it. Number 8, Mae West. Didn't hide her sexuality, she made it her empire. She wrote her own scripts full of double entendres, flaunted her curves in an era of prudish censors, and bragged about her conquests with a wink. "When I'm good, I'm very good," she said. "But when I'm bad, I'm better." Stories about her partners numbered in the hundreds, and she didn't deny them. Men, women. Mae West treated them like props in the theater of her life. She was sued for obscenity, banned from theaters, and still came back bigger than ever. She wasn't just sleeping around, she was weaponizing it, turning her lovers into punchlines and her scandals into box office gold. Number 9, Clara Bow. Clara Bow was the original it girl, a flapper spirit who lit up the silent screen. But behind the sparkle was a mess. She grew up poor and scarred by an abusive mother, and once she hit Hollywood, she sought validation in every bed she could find. Studios whispered that she'd been with an entire football team, co-stars, directors, athletes. The list blurred into legend. Her romances were fast and volatile. Her name splashed across every gossip rag. Eventually, the pressure broke her. By 28, she had retreated to a ranch with actor Rex Bell, trying to escape the noise. But during her heyday, the sheer volume of her affairs made her both adored and condemned. She embodied Hollywood's secret ID: sex, fun, recklessness, and that was why the public couldn't look away. Number 10, Louise Brooks. Louise Brooks was the flapper who made scandal an art form. She didn't hide her affairs, she flaunted them. Men, women, directors, co-stars. Brooks took what she wanted and left the rest gossiping. She had a fiery fling with Greta Garbo, broke hearts in Paris, and mocked Hollywood executives who tried to tame her. Studios wanted her to play the innocent girl, but Brooks was busy living like a libertine. She even bragged that she never wore underwear because it got in the way of fun. That candor got her blacklisted in Hollywood, but it also made her immortal. Off-screen, Brooks wrote later in life about her wildest years with no apology. She admitted openly to trading nights of sex for money when acting jobs dried up, and to her it wasn't shameful, it was survival. She reveled in the messiness of desire, the kind most of her peers tried to bury. Louise didn't care about fame. She cared about freedom in every bed she entered. Number 11, Lupe Velez. They called her the Mexican Spitfire, and Lupe Velez lived up to the name. Her love affairs were volcanic, especially with Gary Cooper, whom she once reportedly shot at in a fit of jealous rage. She tore through Hollywood with fiery romances, with lovers ranging from Charlie Chaplin to Clark Gable. Insiders said she craved drama as much as she craved men. When a romance collapsed, so did Lupe. Her life ending in a tragic suicide in 1944, a scandal that kept her name alive in gossip columns for decades. Friends said she could be passionately affectionate one minute and hurling objects the next. Whispers about her pregnancy fueled speculation about what really drove her over the edge. In Hollywood, her bed was a battlefield, and no man ever walked away unscathed. Number 12, Zsa Zsa Gabor. Men? I like them all, Zsa Zsa Gabor once said. She collected husbands like handbags, 9 in total, and countless lovers in between. Aristocrats, actors, playboys, even politicians lined up for a turn. Her wit was as sharp as her diamonds. I never hated a man enough to give him his diamonds back, she quipped. Every marriage ended in divorce, but that only fueled her celebrity. She slapped cops, flirted on TV, and turned her scandalous love life into a brand before branding was a thing. She was less an actress and more a professional celebrity, famous for being famous decades before reality stars made it normal. She spun affairs into interviews and into headlines, each time reminding the world that men came and went. But Zsa's jewels and one-liners were forever. Number 13, Jean Harlow. Jean Harlow, Hollywood's first true blonde bombshell, was as famous for her bedroom as her films. She married 3 times before she was 25 and was rumored to have lovers stashed between shoots. The biggest uproar hit when her husband Paul Byrne was found dead in their home with a gunshot wound. Police called it suicide. Hollywood whispered cover-up. Her perfume bottles were scattered around the body, turning her grief into a mystery tabloids feasted on. Harlow didn't slow down. She drank, partied, and burned through romances until her kidneys failed at just 26. Some claim the studio covered up affairs to protect her image, but the talk never stopped. She was linked to leading men, wealthy backers, and shadowy figures who blurred the line between Hollywood and crime. To fans, she was the perfect blonde. To insiders, she was a disaster wrapped in satin. Number 14, Hedy Lamarr. Hedy Lamarr was called the most beautiful woman in the world, but beauty didn't make her loyal. She married 6 times, left husbands behind like old shoes, and filled the gaps with affairs whispered about across Europe and Hollywood. She was restless, in love and in life. When she wasn't seducing producers, she was sketching blueprints that would inspire Wi-Fi and Bluetooth decades later. The tabloids painted her as a siren who could never stay satisfied, and Hedy never denied it. Her very first big break came from a film in Europe that showed her nude, and the uproar followed her forever. At Hollywood parties, she shocked guests with her frank talk about sex, claiming she was just as inventive in the bedroom as she was at the drafting table. No one doubted her. Brains, beauty, bedlam. Lamarr carried all 3, and all 3 cursed her love life. Number 15, Grace Kelly. Before she became Princess Grace of Monaco, Grace Kelly was Hollywood's most whispered-about starlet. She was rumored to have bedded nearly every co-star she worked with. Gary Cooper, Clark Gable, Bing Crosby, William Holden. Directors adored her, actors fell for her, and tabloids nicknamed her the Ice Queen with a melting point. When she married Prince Rainier and became royalty, Hollywood pretended her past never happened. But in the studio lots, people remembered. Crew members joked she collected leading men like trophies, 1 per set, and then moved on without looking back. Her beauty seemed untouchable on screen, but behind closed doors, the good Catholic girl label was a mask. The perfect princess was built on very imperfect nights. Number 16, Greta Garbo. Greta Garbo said it best, "I want to be alone." What she didn't say was, "unless you're in my bed." Garbo had affairs with men, but it was her rumored romances with women that kept Hollywood buzzing. She was linked to Marlene Dietrich, Louise Brooks, and playwright Mercedes de Acosta, whose love letters hinted at the passion Garbo kept hidden from the world. On screen, she played icy and untouchable, but in private, she chased desire wherever she pleased. She slipped in and out of romances, then disappeared from Hollywood at her peak, leaving the world to wonder what secrets she took with her. Biographers later uncovered letters so explicit they shattered the image of the silent, untouchable goddess. Garbo's androgynous style, her habit of dressing in slacks and men's jackets, only added to the mystique. Fans called her reclusive. Lovers knew she was simply selective. Garbo hid from the cameras, but never from desire. Number 17. Dorothy Arzner. Dorothy Arzner was the only female director in Hollywood's golden age, and she carved out power in her own way. She never married, but was part of the so-called sewing circle, the coded nickname for Hollywood's underground network of queer women. She was linked to Joan Crawford, Barbara Stanwyck, and a parade of starlets who found themselves in her orbit. In public, she dressed in suits and ties, daring anyone to question her. In private, she built a life of coded romances, whispered about but never denied. She was as inventive behind the camera as she was in her personal life. Arzner even invented the boom mic using a fishing rod so actresses could move freely. A piece of technical brilliance born from a woman who was always bending rules to suit herself. For Arzner, desire wasn't a distraction. It was part of her rebellion. She filmed women by day and loved them by night. Number 18. Ingrid Bergman. Ingrid Bergman was America's sweetheart, until she wasn't. When she fell for Italian director Roberto Rossellini, she left her husband and child behind, and the U.S. turned on her overnight. Senators denounced her on the floor of Congress. Headlines screamed, "Homewrecker." Hollywood exiled her as immoral, her career hanging by a thread. Bergman never apologized. She married Rossellini, had children with him, and lived openly in the scandal. Though she eventually won back respect with films like Anastasia, she never outran the nympho label the press had pinned on her. For years, she lived in Europe, shunned by the very town that once adored her. Fan letters turned to hate mail, and former allies kept their distance. Yet her exile only cemented her image as a woman who refused to play by Hollywood's rules of quiet suffering. She was condemned for love and crowned again by history. Number 19. Elizabeth Taylor. Violet eyes made men reckless. Her most infamous move came when she stole her best friend Debbie Reynolds' husband, singer Eddie Fisher. The uproar was so loud it almost sank both their careers, but Taylor leaned into it, marrying Fisher before moving on to actor Richard Burton, twice. In total, she married 8 times to 7 different men, a carousel of desire and regret that made her as famous off-screen as on it. "I don't know why anyone would call me a nymphomaniac," she once quipped. "I'm just always married." The truth is, she was always searching for love, for validation, for something stronger than loneliness. But every new husband came with new turmoil. Lovers described her as intoxicating, impossible to resist, but equally impossible to hold. Her violet eyes promised love. What they delivered was chaos. Number 20. Marilyn Monroe. And finally, Marilyn, the ultimate sex symbol, the name that defines the word nympho in Hollywood lore. Her name was whispered in connection with studio heads, mobsters, co-stars, and even the White House. She married 3 times: James Doherty, Joe DiMaggio, Arthur Miller, but none could hold her. Affairs with John F. Kennedy and Robert Kennedy still fuel conspiracy theories. On set, she was late, medicated, fragile, but in private, she chased love with the same intensity she brought to the screen. Insiders describe Marilyn as the studio's shared secret, pressured into affairs with men who controlled her career. She brushed shoulders with mobsters, deepening the danger around her already chaotic life. With Marilyn, every lover came with shadows. She was the ultimate sex symbol and the ultimate casualty of desire. They weren't just stars, they were storms. Hollywood tried to script them, control them, polish them into perfect illusions. But behind the camera, they rewrote the script themselves. In bedrooms, in bars, in whispered scandals that no studio could contain. For every role they played on screen, they lived a wilder one off it. Their appetites built legends, their scandals rewrote Hollywood history, and their names still echo whenever the word nympho gets whispered. In the end, it wasn't the films alone that made them immortal. It was the chaos they carried into every love, every bed, and every headline. And maybe that's why their stories still grip us today. Not because of the glamour, not because of the beauty, but because every scandal, every rumor, every forbidden affair made them human, messy, reckless, unforgettable. Hollywood's golden idols, tarnished by desire, yet shining all the brighter for it.